This is Kits and Wagers. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen for Game Week 24 in the Premier League. We got 3 games on the slate that we're talking about, and we're finishing up with a Team Parlay. Chris, you're coming off a successful, 3-1 weekend in Game Week 23. It's coming off some success, so let's see if you can back it up.
Yeah, good. It was a get right week last week. Good to get a couple bets, hitting. We had a tough week the prior probably 2 weeks, so we're back in the mix here. I forget which bet I missed on the last one, but hit a couple. I think it might have been maybe it was the Arsenal Liverpool game, but yeah, we're back, and we got a huge week. We got a little 7-2-1, 7 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, and 1 game Monday. It's a huge weekend for world football. We got also the AFCON final. We got the Asian Cup final. And then on top of that, I think Real Madrid plays Girona, and then Bayern Leverkusen and Bayern Munich also. So if you're a fan of sitting on the couch and watching soccer, this weekend could be the weekend for you.
You mentioned the Super Bowl, but
yeah, all right. So if you love American football, you got a little something called the old Super Bowl on Sunday. So maybe get a big coffee started up on Sunday morning for a couple games. Maybe get some takeout. I don't know. Maybe you got a big food spread ready. But whatever you got to do. But if you're a big fan of sitting on the couch and watching sports, this could be a good weekend for you. And Are
you a takeout guy the day before the Super Bowl?
The day before or the day of?
The day before. You're mentioning takeout. I'm just wondering. I feel like I got to fast the day before the Super Bowl so, I can eat everything that's available to me during the Super Bowl.
That's a good point. I think what you do, I'm a big fan of eating, as frequently as possible, as much as possible. So I'm more of maybe mix in a little cardio in the morning, and then
there you go. Do some push-ups.
Yeah, a couple. Maybe more just the calorie burns. It's not about strength training. I'm just trying to clear space. So maybe a little fast in the morning, just strictly coffee till about 11 or noon, and then
that's good for you.
And then you start to fill it up, and you start to graze. You get a little fat and sassy. You start, maybe some beers come around later in the day too. So that's kind of the program I'm on. And yeah, I don't know. I'm solo this weekend, so my significant other is gone for the weekend. So this might be I'm hitting some takeout. I don't know we'll see.
You're definitely not going to be fasting, is what we'll say.
Yeah, no. Frequent beers, frequent food. Not a whole lot for me.
For the bets last week, I looked it up. So because we forgot what we talked about exactly a week ago, but you did have Arsenal first goal. Of course, right. The one game we missed on was Manchester United and West Ham, because Manchester United got the 3 goals and the win, except West Ham racked up the shots and racked up the corners.
That's right. Yeah, I think I missed that by a few. Was it raced to 5 corners or 7?
You had raced to 7.
7. Okay.
And I had Manchester United over 19 shots.
Yeah, and they had 7 or something. It was low.
I hope they had more than that, but
okay. I don't know.
You think they had 7 shots from 3 goals? I don't know. 12 shots they got too.
Okay. It was low in the first half, and then they kind of started racking them up in the second half.
Unbelievable. What a result. What a result. But we got other games here we're talking about. We have a relegation battle. We got a game between struggling teams. We got a game between no Michael Olise and Eze against Chelsea and Monday Night Football. So we got a couple interesting things. We're skipping Sunday this week. We got 2 on Saturday because there's 7 games on Saturday. And this relegation battle between 2 promoted sides. Luton Town, our home against Sheffield United. Luton Town are up to -130, which is a pretty, if we want, we can't look at the numbers before the season because, probably there weren't even numbers before the season. But if this game happened before the season, these odds would be, I don't know, maybe we're looking at Luton Town plus 150 to win and Sheffield United plus 180. You got to think it would be much closer. But we're getting Luton Town minus 130 to win. Sheffield United plus 360. The draw is plus 285. And then we can do over 2.5 goals minus 125, under 2.5 goals plus 100. Luton Town may be one of the more impressive teams, at least over the last month or two here. Just got a point at Newcastle. 4-4 was that result. They're still kind of battling above the relegation zone. They are, what are they? They're 1 point above Everton, who are in 18th place. So not out of the woods yet. Speaking of woods, we got Nottingham Forest coming up. But Chris, are we riding the Luton Town wave here against Sheffield United, who looked incompetent against Aston Villa last weekend?
Yeah, two things. That point they got at Newcastle, Luton got, was, I think they would consider it a disappointing point. They were up 4-2, I think, with 20 minutes left or so.
Well, Harvey Barnes, you don't want to mess with that coming off the bench.
Definitely not. But yeah, you're up 2 goals. You think you're going to pull away a huge 3 points away from home. Ends up 4-4. I mean, good draw for them, but still, if you're in that situation, you'd think that you would be able to grab 3 points and maybe sit in a bit. But yeah, I mean, other than that, they've been doing well. Outside of that, they beat. I mean, looking back, they didn't play too far. They played on Boxing Day, Sheffield United and Luton Town, and that was 3-2 to Luton Town. Luton was away, so they faced each other, a little over probably 6 weeks ago, so they're pretty familiar. Since then, Luton lost to Chelsea at home. Otherwise, they drew Burnley. They beat the doors off Brighton. That was maybe 2 weeks, about a month ago. No, a week ago.
We did talk about that game. We both hit that game, whatever our bets were.
If I could read a calendar, that would be good. But that was on January 30th. They won that one 4-0, and then 4-4 recently here against Newcastle. So Luton's been playing great, and good for them. I'm kind of – I think I'm just going to – I wanted to take Luton again here. Sheffield United looked like – I think it was Robbie Earle on NBC's coverage who said after that recent Sheffield game where they were not great. He's like, there's 20 teams in the Premier League, and one team looks like they shouldn't be competing here, and that's Sheffield United. So I thought that was pretty damaging after they lost 5-0 at home. But I thought about Luton Town money line to start. They're minus 130 at home. Given their form, you might consider that. I kind of moved off that. You also have Luton double chance and over 2.5 is another one I considered. That's minus 110. But ultimately, I'm just going to bang on the over 2.5. It's minus 125 is what I got this week. But also, if and it took a lot of my being here. I've been trying to go a little bit bigger on these bets and try to hit some plus odds more so than the minus odds. I didn't quite have the bravery for that this week, but the over 3.5 is plus 205 in this game, which is kind of intriguing given the things that I just said. I said, Sheffield lost to Aston Villa 5-0 last time out. They lost to Crystal Palace previous game 3-2. They had a 2-2 draw with West Ham. Got pretty well worked against Man City. That was 2-0, so didn't hit the over. And then the match before that was 3-2. So there's been a ton of goals in their games. I already mentioned the amount of goals in Luton with a 4-4 and a 4-0 prior to that. So if you really think there's going to be some goals here, think about that over 3.5 at plus 205. My biggest concern is, can Sheffield United find the back of the net? But Adam's got his favorite forward in the league here, Ollie McBurney. So if you believe in him like Adam does, maybe you take that over.
If he's ready to start, he was out last week with some calf issue.
Okay. Did you look at the Ollie McBurney anytime goal scoring odds in your bet, or did that come into play?
That was not in my that was not in my thinking. I'm just trying to look back to see what the exact date when Chris Wilder took over, because I thought for December we're looking.
Yeah, wasn't it right before that Liverpool match?
Yeah, it was. Okay, they lost 5-0 at Burnley. I'm just thinking, I thought they kind of turned a corner a little bit for a few games, and you see here they won. They beat Brentford. They played Liverpool and played at Chelsea. But they drew 1-1 at Aston Villa. So I thought they were turned a corner.
They've taken 5 points total in like 8 games since they hired him. What do you mean?
They should have won.
Turned a corner.
They beat Brentford first off, and they
good response.
probably should have won at Aston Villa, who at the time had just beat Man City and Arsenal at home, and they almost beat Aston Villa at Villa Park. Aston Villa got a 97th minute goal in that. So yeah, I do think you can say
they've given up at least 2 goals in 6 of their 9 matches.
No, that's what I'm getting to. They turned a corner for like 4 matches, and then all of a sudden they fell apart again, is what I'm saying.
4 matches. They have 5 points in 8 matches.
You know what?
I don't think they've hit another corner,
they turned a corner for a few matches. It was the new manager bump, and then they're like, actually, this guy kind of sucks, so we're going to start losing again.
They got to the corner and turned it and ran into a big brick wall.
There's just a bunch of not so pleasant results here for them. Who knows how they're going to line up? I mean, after how they looked against Aston Villa, are they going to line up the same way? I don't know. We'll see who's starting here. They added Ivo Grbic from Atletico Madrid's bench, and he picked up a concussion, I think, in his second game. But he's not going to be ready for this one. It's kind of the state of the team. They add a secondary goalkeeper from La Liga, and he's automatically their starter. Then he actually gets hurt. Mason Holgate in his first start with the club, 5-0, and probably what are we seeing? The first player ever to 5-0 starts, 5-0 losses in one season with 2 different team debuts. Because I think he had that with Southampton earlier in the season. But I mean, you just can't back Sheffield United in this spot. Maybe this is the bounce back for Sheffield United, but technically we could be saying that all season. I think the one thing
bounce back opportunities.
We talked about Luton Town 10 or so days ago, and we were both on Luton Town playing at home. And before that match, Tom Lockyer came out and basically pumped the crowd up. And maybe they should just do that every home game. Just Lockyer's here. Let's pump it. Let's amp everyone up. And they came out and just dominated Brighton from the start in that 4-0 win. I mean, maybe you don't need him. Maybe you don't need to use Lockyer in this spot. But either way, I am kind of thinking some goals similar to you. You have over 2.5 goals at -125. It could be just Luton Town scoring. You may not even have to worry about Sheffield United, but I went a little lighter with that. I got a nice little single game parlay. So I got Luton Town money line with over 1.5 goals, and that's +125 or +115 there. So the question is, how much do you like Luton Town to win? And I'll say my bet's better than yours is what I'll say. What do you think about that?
I think, frankly, I'll give you the nod for that one. That is, I mean, your numbers are better. You're also playing on the money line, which I just didn't get into, but I love the money line bet here. I mean, no team in the EPL has less points away from home than Sheffield. They've taken 2 points away from home. They've lost 9 matches, haven't won a single game away from home this season. So I think it's smart to take Luton, despite them being, relatively close in the table, obviously. But yeah, I am slight regrets that I don't have a money line aspect for Luton in my bet. But I think we're you've got the over 1.5, which is a pretty safe play in terms of what's going to happen here. I think there's been at least 2 goals for each team in probably at least the last 5 matches, if not more. So yeah. I do like your bet more here, but I'm a little weary of the 3rd goal. I think the 2 goals should be a problem.
You can get a little better if you even go a little safer. Luton Town double chance and over 2.5 is -110. So if you want a few more, if you're under the assumption Sheffield United are not going to come out and win, you could throw Luton Town double chance into yours and get a little better odds as well. I was going to say Sheffield United have a -21 goal differential in 11 away matches this season, which isn't very good. Granted, they also are -19 at home in 12 home matches. So it's not like they're good anywhere. So
they've given up 28 goals in 11 matches away from home. So not very good defensively.
Last for a reason is what we'll say.
Yes.
Next game, we got the standalone Saturday match, and it's pretty intriguing, I'd say. Nottingham Forest are home. They're +230 to win. Newcastle are +110. The draw is +275. just looking at the odds page over at RotoWire, we could see at some point about a week ago, the odds were Newcastle minus 120, and I'm not sure what happened, but they've kind of gone in Nottingham Forest's favor. So now they're plus 110. Nottingham Forest were plus 300 to win. Now they're plus 230 to win. So a pretty interesting line movement there. The over 2.5 goals is minus 150. Under 2.5 is plus 120. These teams also met, I think it was Boxing Day, at the end of December there when Chris Wood had his revenge game hat trick. I want to say Newcastle scored first, and then Chris Wood just put it on, and Nottingham Forest won at Newcastle, which was maybe one of the more surprising results of the season, given how well Newcastle play at home this season. So looking at some of these lineups, we don't really have a ton of new things happening. Callum Wilson able to start again because he just returned from his injury, but Anthony Gordon picked up an injury of his own in the process. So I think for one of the first times all season, Anthony Gordon's going to be out. So maybe that's a factor here. But Nottingham Forest getting pretty healthy. The big news would be Taiwo Awani is ready to start again. I think he started last weekend, his first start in a few months for him. So Nottingham Forest, can they get the win here? Another win. Can Nottingham Forest get 6 points against Newcastle, which I don't know, would sound crazy if we said that, I don't know, before the first match between them.
Yeah, no, totally. My initial reaction was like, how is Nottingham Forest plus 230? Like I thought it would be closer to maybe like plus 300, plus 350. And initially when I saw the money line at home, I mean, Newcastle obviously having a bit of a, they're not as good as they are last season. A big part of that has been due to injuries. You mentioned, but they're going to be missing Anthony Gordon. Joe Linton looks like he's out. I mean, their marquee signing has been suspended all season. So they're missing some guys. The back line is, it looks like it's pretty much fully fit now. They're still missing Nick Pope with the shoulder injury. So, I mean, they're missing a couple guys. Is Isak out too? I don't know if I saw that correctly.
Isak's out, yep.
Okay, Isak's out. So they're missing probably 4 to 5 starters out of their starting 11. Colin Wilson, obviously good up top. He was had a great season last year. But yeah, I was interested to see that Nottingham Forest did play in the midweek. They had a FA Cup match. I forget who it was against, but I think it went to penalties. And
Bristol City.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, good, heartwarming win for them there. But Matt Turner, the hero after he's been having a pretty big struggle bus over the last month or so. So good for him. But yeah, I was initially like, why the heck is Nottingham Forest? I guess they're still pretty big underdogs, but why aren't they bigger underdogs? But then you look at the table, and we just talked about Sheffield United being one of the worst or the worst team away from home in the league. And then you go a couple places down here, and surprisingly, we always talk about how good Newcastle is at home. Away from home, they've been not good. They have 8 points in 11 matches away from home. They've won 2 games and drawn 2, and then they've lost 7 other games. I did say that, injuries has played a big part in that, and their back line is a little bit better. But I initially was like, wow, can we get a double chance bet? I looked at a couple double chance and over bets for a same game parlay that I think are interesting. So if you wanted to, I'm not going to go with that for my bet here, but if you wanted to, you can get a Nottingham Forest double chance and over 1.5. That's minus 120. If you think that you're like, all right, Newcastle's not been great away from home, and you want to go a little bit more on the goals, you go Nottingham Forest and double chance, Nottingham Forest double chance and over 2.5 at plus 170. I'm going to steer clear of those, although I am intrigued by those. I'm going to take a page out of the Adam book here and go on an over 5.5 corners bet. It's minus 120. You look at the handy dandy RotoWire cheat sheet, and you can find we have the corners conceded. Sheffield United actually, I believe they concede the most amount of corners in the league. That changes a bit when they're at home, so bear that in mind. I don't think they're ranked quite as high there, but yeah, they're conceding a ton of corners, and I do just given the fact that Newcastle has full back line, a couple guys, I feel like they'll be able to apply the pressure here and get at least 6 corners. I'm hoping, so that this bet will hit. But did you consider corners bet, or did you go a different direction here?
I don't know how many corners I looked at this week. I can't remember. I just know in the past I've lost multiple Newcastle corner bets this season because they haven't been getting as many as last season. So I think that I just didn't bother looking at it because I didn't want to deal with another Newcastle corners bet. So that's
That's
why
fair.
I didn't consider it.
So yeah,
But I mean, yours makes sense. We don't think Nottingham Forest are going to have, I don't know, more than 40% possession. Let's see what they had last game. But I was going to bring up, not Newcastle have actually won their last 3 away matches, which I think deserves a shout just because of their road record for the season is the same as Burnley's, but they just won at Aston Villa. They got the win at Fulham in the FA Cup, and they also won at Sunderland in the FA Cup, which was arguably a pretty big win for them given the derby there. But let me pull up the this last game here. And
yeah,
so it was 3-1. Isak got the goal in the 23rd minute. 62% possession in that one.
that's
10
wild.
corners, 10 corners for them, 2 for Nottingham Forest. So I think the possession numbers will be the same. I don't know if, Nottingham Forest will be at 3.46 xG again like that one. But we saw Dan Burn get roasted by Bene last game. We'll see how he does against probably Anthony Elanga on that right side for Nottingham Forest there. So I think that is one interesting part where at some point, playing a 6'6" regular center back at left back for, the last 2 seasons, it comes back to bite you at times. And Agbene from Luton Town kind of torched Dan Burn last week. But because of that, and because of some of Newcastle's struggles away from home and Nottingham Forest, I'm still unsure about their defense and their team in general. I think both these teams can score on the spot. We saw them both score in the first meeting. I'm kind of going heavy here, but I got over 3.5 goals at plus 165. I just think both teams are going to be able to score. Nottingham Forest, we know Chris Wood got the hat trick last game, but Awani is a better player than Chris Wood. They're also pretty healthy, maybe somewhat worried about guys like Morgan Gibbs-White going 120 minutes on Wednesday. But other than that, I mean, they're starting Omo Bamidele, who is basically a championship level center back. And I think that, comes back to get them at times. And then we throw in Harvey Barnes off the bench available for Newcastle again. So they actually have a real attacker coming off the bench, which wasn't the case for so long there. So Almiron, Murphy, Callum Wilson now as well. So maybe at least someone off the bench for him. So I think there's going to be goals. You're thinking corners, but do you also think there's going to be goals in this one?
Yeah, I mean, we just saw a 4-4 all-time classic between Luton and Newcastle. And I mean, you mentioned there's been the last away match for Newcastle. They, surprising win over Aston Villa, 3-1, and then, a couple other games that have been away too. So yeah, but I guess the over 3.5 goals is, is it a bridge too far? I'm not quite sure, but it's certainly an interesting bet. And I appreciate that you hit that instead of the 2.5.
What, the minus 150?
Yeah, we can't give out minus 150.
What do you think? I'm an idiot?
There's going to be 4 goals, no doubt about it. So that's a healthy number.
I don't know. It might. I'm going to say let's go 3-3. 4-4 last week. Let's do 3-3. We'll do just 2 goals lower there.
And they just bring on Gio Reyna to burn Dan Burn or what?
Yeah, let's say that.
You would probably put on the left, maybe, but I don't know.
I mean, anyone can go on that. I mean, as I said, I knew Dan Burn was big, but I looked up his height this week, and it was just like, man, the guy's 6'6" left back here.
He's a bigger lad, that's for sure. There's not many 6'6" guys in the EPL either, so
yeah,
he's got to be like one of. I can't think about anyone else who's that sizable, but
I'm sure there's some goalkeepers that are 6'8" or something.
Yeah. I feel like Edouard Mendy when he was on Chelsea was at least 6'6".
Maybe he's playing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, maybe
Dan Burn's future.
Yeah, that's that could be a good trivia question that we'll have to bring up later. Is how many 6 or 6'5" plus players are in the EPL?
That's one thing RotoWire doesn't have. We don't have heights in the stat pages, so that part is we don't have that. So sorry to everyone following RotoWire, we don't have that one. The next game we're talking about, though, we got Monday Night Football, and this is it exciting? It's a game, is what I'll say. And the line movement here between Crystal Palace and Chelsea it's going to be one of the bigger line movements that you'll probably see over the course of 1 week. So basically, over the past week, we got news. Okay, everyone knows about Michael Elise going on for 10 minutes or whatever off the bench, down 3-0 last week, re-injured his hamstring, so he's out. Eberechi Easy also out with a hamstring injury. So 1 week ago, plus 235 Crystal Palace were to win. They are currently plus 350 to win. That is a pretty big line movement given 1 week of time here. Chelsea, they are currently minus 135 to win. That was a week ago. That was plus 110 to win. Now they're minus 135 to win at Crystal Palace. The draw is at plus 300. Kind of like the draw actually a little bit here, plus 300. Over 2.5 goals, minus 125. Under 2.5 goals, plus 100. So I told you before the show, you got the square bet. You got the recency bias bet. It's all about recency bias. Been talking about that a little bit because of the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs looking good in the playoffs. 49ers not looking good, so people are going to the Chiefs. All that recency bias talk. But Crystal Palace, I guess I should mention Mark Gahey, one of their top center backs is also out. So he's out. But Chelsea, they won. They kind of dominated, or they at least looked really good at Aston Villa on Wednesday, which surprised me, probably surprised a lot of other people as well. But they got Nkunku back. He did not start midweek, so that's a positive for him starting this one. Nicholas Jackson started in that one. They're pretty healthy. I mean, they got a pretty big injury list, but a lot of these guys, this isn't like the Newcastle injury list. This is a lot of backups outside of, Reece James kind of a thing. Otherwise, mostly backups that are injured. So they got a pretty good squad here. So my question to you, Chris, do you think Wednesday's game matters at all? Do you think they're going to be too cocky because, they look good in one game? How many games this season have Chelsea played solid in back-to-back games? I'm not sure it's been too many this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. There's like getting any level of consistency out of Chelsea has been, pretty much impossible. Pochettino seemed, great win over Aston Villa in the FA Cup. That was away from home, I believe, in the midweek. So that certainly helps him. But I feel like I was seeing, a couple sound bites, so take that for what it is. But he seemed especially agitated this week and, maybe feeling the pressure of like, okay, I got a 200 billion, nearly $1 billion squad here. That is a mid-table team. But I will say, you mentioned Crystal Palace's injury list, and I think I had Adam, two parts here. Adam called my bet before the show a square bet via Slack. And I said, if you're gonna call my bet a square bet, then at least do it, chirp me on the show here. So let's see what he's got to rebuttal. But my bet is Chelsea money line and over 1.5 goals. It's plus 110. You're getting plus odds. Two things to note is Chelsea have beaten Crystal Palace 13 straight matches. One of those was in the FA Cup match. So they've beaten them 12 straight matches in the Premier League. So that's nothing to scoff at. If you think that's a square bet, fair game. But the other part of that is Crystal Palace are going to be missing, Adam's got it pulled up on RotoWire.com. But Eze's out. Michael Elise's out. I think you mentioned they're missing a defender as well. Like they two of their two key players, and Elise and Eze, are out, and they account for 11 of their goals. Crystal Palace has like 20 something goals this season. They have 26 goals, so they're missing at least a third of their goals from their attacking output. Chelsea, yes, no level of consistency, but that's nothing. 13 straight wins over a team I would call that domination. So, do you still think it's a square bet that, considering Chelsea or Crystal Palace is missing their two key players, if not three key players, and Chelsea's domination?
Yeah, I think that's the definition here of square bet, because we got the recency bias, we got this line movement. So the squares are looking at the line movement and they're taking the obvious route. So Chelsea money line are the obvious route. So that's why it's a square bet.
Yeah, but but we're tacking on an easy over 1.5 goals, so maybe the plus odds.
Easy. All right. I don't know. Is it easy?
It's Eze.
Easy
Yeah,
E. I think this is an awesome Roy Hodgson spot because he was absolutely ridiculed for putting in Michael Olise last week. After halftime, they're down 3-0.
yeah.
This guy coming back from injury, put him on, got injured 10 minutes later. And, he came on. He was like, the physio said he could go 45. And then it's like, well, why did he start if he go 45? There's a lot of questions in that. But I feel like we've seen this kind of over the years here with Crystal Palace where, okay, some of their best players are out. They just make the game extremely ugly and somehow find a result some way, somehow. Let me pull up. I think I was thinking similar. Crystal Palace were home against Liverpool. It was basically the same situation. They're home against Liverpool December 9th. They ended up losing 2-1 in that game. Liverpool needed a 91st minute goal from Harvey Elliott, and Salah also got one in the 76th minute. Mateta got one 57th minute. So that's yeah. What?
It was a penalty.
Okay, got a PK. But yeah, that's just kind of what I want to bring up here. It's like, okay, well, it's obvious that Crystal Palace don't have their best players, so let's just play this Chelsea team who, have been more inconsistent than everyone else in the league. So I think this is going to be. I don't know. We say this with every Crystal Palace game, so maybe it's not going to be low scoring. But either way, my bet is not related to the over under. I'm actually going corners here. And my corner, it was, I think, plus 150 maybe earlier in the week, but Crystal Palace raced to 5 corners plus 170. So they're at home. Seems like a lot of corners to get without Olise, without Eze in the lineup. But Jordan Ayew is a workhorse in the attack. They also have a healthy Mateta, healthy Edouard. They could actually start both those guys. We'll see, but I'm still unsure about, they started Daniel Munoz, newcomer at right back last game. Adam Wharton came on for Gahey last game as well. We could see Chris Richards as a center back. We'll see how that lines out. But, the good news is, Jefferson Lerma is healthy and available in the midfield. So that's a boost. Pretty much, they have some big injuries, but some key pieces in the midfield are available, and Ayew and Lerma are in there. So I think it's still in range that we could see, one, Crystal Palace put up a fight, and two, let's hope they get to 5 corners first. I'm maybe doubting my bet a little bit as I'm talking about it here. But I think I kind of like a race to 3 a little more, but let's just do a race to 5 plus 170.
That's fair. I just can't get over the fact that they're missing, half their attacking force here. Edouard's solid, but in Ayew, a utility guy through and through, but I could see where the 5 corners, I guess it's all going to be on the counter though. I feel like Roy's going to have those boys just like playing, 8 at the back and asking Jordan Ayew to basically chase balls up top.
Crystal Palace had 23% possession and 2 corners in the first half against Liverpool. And then they actually finished that game with more corners than Liverpool. They had 6 corners. I didn't mention Ayew also got sent off in the 75th minute. So, if Crystal Palace can get corners at home against Liverpool, down a man for the final 15, 20 minutes, why can't they do that against Chelsea, who have plenty of issues of their own, even though they're coming off a win?
Let's just see.
Let's just see. Chris's was single game parlay. He's got Chelsea money line and over 1.5 goals. That's plus 110. I got Crystal Palace race to 5 corners. Let's get into our team. Yeah.
Yeah. A quick note before we move to our team parlay is this show has quickly become edges and shapes in wagers. We've got square bets. We've got, Adam turning a corner. So I don't know how we can incorporate another shape into this last team parlay, but let's see what happens.
What's the word for a team parlay? It's not bounce back. Getting on the right track.
It's the get right parlay.
Get right parlay. I don't know. You use that for something already.
The down bad parlay. I don't know.
The down bad parlay. This at this point last year, I gave you the suggestion of just stopping our team parlay because it was really struggling. At least for the last 5 weeks, either I've hit one and you haven't hit one, or you hit one and I haven't hit one. So
we're giving good bets. Like if you're taking standalone bets, they're good bets. But together,
so team parlay, I won't say how much we're down, but we're gonna turn a corner here at some point. All we
let's ride a wave. Let's call it ride the wave.
We're gonna both hit a bet at some point in the future, and then we're gonna ride that wave, and we're gonna start stringing along 2, 3, 4 team parlays in a row. Are we gonna start this week? Maybe. Chris, you're talking about this Tottenham Brighton match. They're just getting a lot of guys back here. Tottenham it's crazy all of a sudden how deep Tottenham are. They get Son back. They have Kulusevski, who didn't start last week. They got Basuma back as well in the midfield. They're suddenly a deep team, and they don't have European play to worry about. So Tottenham home against Brighton, who actually also just lost João Pedro. I think their leading scorer to a hamstring injury.
Yeah, I think I had a Tottenham. Well, we talked about the Tottenham Everton game last week. That hit. I had the over 1.5. Tottenham very attacking side. I was like, that seems like quite an easy bet to hit. Turns out it was. I'm back on Tottenham again this week. I'm like, hook it in here and let me ride this Tottenham wave. You mentioned how healthy they are, how deep they are. I think the only potential player who would play a part is questionable is Giovanni Lo Celso, and he's probably maybe coming off the bench anyways. So they're fully fit. I love what we saw to start the season. I think they won their first 6 matches under Big Ange. So we saw what they can do when they're fully fit, and obviously here it's a decent little matchup here. I think overall, if you wanted to look at goals, you could, but I'm strictly on Tottenham money line here. I think they continue to ride the wave. They've got when you look at their starting 11, one of the strongest starting 11s in the Prem. They're minus 130, so just on that cusp of being a serviceable bet. So I'm slamming that, and they're at home. Brighton, I think, coming off, they're maybe not doing as well. I guess they just beat Palace, but yeah, I'm all over Tottenham money line here. I think you see Son also coming back, maybe coming off the bench. I didn't even talk about that, but yeah, they're fully fit. They got a front starting 11 is one of the best. So I like them at home, and Brighton, a tough side, always set up well, but I think that they can pull it out here.
Yeah, this is I didn't want to look at this match. I think it's kind of hard to project. That Tottenham got those 2 goals, but they finished with less than 1 xG, and again, Everton racked up xG. They got that late equalizer, but they finished with 2.62 in that game. It was a pretty fun game, as we said, a pretty fun game to expect in that one. I think this one will be interesting, just because Tottenham getting some guys back they still had some issues last week. Brighton have really been at full strength for the majority of the season, haven't really been playing that well, but I'm not going to take Brighton money line, so Tottenham money line makes sense. I'm going with the Aston Villa Manchester United match. I just had to look at the over under for this one. So over 2.5 goals is minus 190, and the over 3.5 goals is plus 135. My bet is going to be both teams to score no draw, plus 105. These teams played about a month ago. It was, I think, Aston Villa scored 2 in the first half, and then Manchester United scored 3 in the second half, and won that one. But most relevant here is Aston Villa had a lot of success at home earlier in the season. I think they're coming off a couple losses now. They came off that loss midweek against Chelsea. They came off a loss against whatever team we were just talking about, Newcastle. They lost that Newcastle match. They also have Ezri Konsa out, who has been starting at right back because he's just a better defender than Matty Cash. Matty Cash starts on Wednesday. They lose. They give up 3 goals at home against Chelsea. So I think there's another weakness in the back line here. in addition to a guy like Tyrone Mings being out for the season. But I think there's just going to be goals in this one. And I think one of these teams is going to win. Maybe I lean Aston Villa, but Manchester United are playing well enough that I'm just going to say no draw here instead of picking a side. And I think either one of these teams could win 2-1, 3-2 kind of a thing. But I just think there's going to be goals. We know about Manchester United allowing goals. Aston Villa have had some problems of late. So Aston Villa, Manchester United, both teams to score no draw is plus 105. Parlay that with Spurs money line minus 135. We're getting plus 256 odds. Are you thinking goals in the Villa Man United match, Chris?
Could be. I'm a little concerned about Villa's recent home form, but I guess they can turn it around here. United all of a sudden look like it's there's we were talking about Chelsea being a pretty inconsistent team. Man United fits right in that narrative as well. Good win for them last week, and they're getting great contributions from their young players. Like Kobe Mino has been really good. Casper is Holland. How do you say it? The Norwegian, or I guess he's Danish.
Norwegian? Rasmus Højlund.
Yeah, he's been solid. Fine in the back of that. I think he had a goal and assist last weekend. And then Garnacho was good too. So they've got some young guys starting to contribute, and I feel like that's the key of any healthy club. So I don't know. Villa at home, you're expecting goals here and the no draw. I think Villa, maybe turn it back around here at home.
Maybe Unai Emery bounce back right there. So there we go. Team Parlay winner coming right at you. Chris, what do we got? This is the first time in a long time we haven't talked about Liverpool, but they're home against Burnley, and Manchester United home against Everton. Who's more likely to drop points, Liverpool or Manchester City?
Is City at home, or is
both Liverpool and Manchester City are at home?
I think it's 3 points for both teams, honestly. I think City win in the early slate. They go top of the table. And then Liverpool plays Burnley. They win again. They also win. And then, City still have that game in hand here. But Everton, I don't know. Burnley doesn't offer much, and neither does Everton. There was an interesting stat on the Athletic podcast about City. They've given up, I think it's on an opponent's first shot of the game, they've given up a goal in 12 games this season. So crazy stat. Right. It happened on the first opportunity against Brentford this past weekend, where I think it was who scored, but first shot.
Who scored? Who scored? It was Neil Maupay.
I'm honestly on the Maupay bandwagon. I love that guy. He's always riling up opponents, and the James fights Kelly in his face, turned into crap for him because they lost. But I love the demeanor he brings to the pitch. But no, I think we're going to see both City and Liverpool pick up 3 points.
Chris, the people are wondering, can Liverpool win without Connor Bradley?
The people being yourself, or yeah, I think so. I mean, he might be back this weekend.
He's not.
He's not back again. Damn.
They're letting him. They're giving him as much time as possible.
That's fair.
Makes sense.
Yeah, his father passed away last week, so fair game for him. He's a pretty young kid too, so good to give him a little time to figure that out. And obviously, you pop in Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back is he's okay. He's fine, but it's got to be a good bounce back for them after they got absolutely cranked at Arsenal. Arsenal overran them and looked the better side for pretty much all 90 minutes. So it'll be a good bounce back for them, and we'll see who starts in the midfield. Sounds like Thiago played 40 minutes or whatever against Arsenal, and now he's out for the season. So that should be interesting. I love the guy, but might have played his last match for Liverpool.
All right, one last thing before we go. I pulled up the height in the Premier League, and this must be a third, fourth string Chelsea goalkeeper. Lucas Bergstrom is the tallest player in the league, but basically the tallest player who actually plays is Dan Burn at 201 centimeters. We got Fraser Forster, Bayern Deer, Manchester United's backup goalkeeper, Wayne Hennessy, Burnley's backup goalkeeper, Nick Pope, So we're looking at the next field player to be within Dan Burns' range is center back for Fulham, Tosin Adarabioyo, Christopher Aguirre, and then Tyrone Mings are next in line to be 5 centimeters shorter than Dan Burn. So Dan Burn wins the title for tallest player who actually plays minutes in the Premier League. But you can find Chris at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I'm at RotoZdroik. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Listen to our podcast as well. Let's win some bets. We're gonna be 8-0 at some point this season. We can't say when it will be, but maybe it'll be this weekend. So
let's see.
Let's win some bets. Chris, enjoy your non-fasting. Enjoy your smoking birds and all that good stuff. Whatever's happening over there. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully, you're getting ready for MLS season because we're going to be cranking out all this MLS coverage in the future. But thanks, Chris. See everyone next week.
Thanks, Adam.